Big names in entertainment like Lil Wayne, DJ Marshmello, and Chris Brown facing scrutiny for spending millions in COVID relief money on themselves, according to an in-depth report by Business Insider, which reviewed accounting documents and filings with the Small Business Administration, which administered the loans. NBC News has not seen the documents, but the reporting says the celebs were awarded money from the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant.
It was, talked about as something that would help, the local institution concert venue, the middle class stagehand, the small time performing artist who's, just getting their start.
But in the case of A-list star Lil Wayne, Business Insider reviewed documents showing the rapper received $8.9 million in relief funds, spending $1.3 million on private jets, another $460,000 going to clothes, including Balenciaga and Gucci. After canceling a New Year's Eve show in 2021 due to weather conditions, Business Insider says the rapper apparently partied at a nightclub, but still billed taxpayers nearly $88,000 for the concert that never happened. Chris Brown and his companies receiving $10 million, according to the article, including thousands for his birthday party's LED dance floor, hookah and bottle service, nitrogen ice cream, and
even some burn holes in the rental couches. Certainly not what I think the members of Congress had in mind when they approved this money.
The Business Insider reporting going on to say that an almost $10 million grant to superstar DJ Marshmello's company went straight into his pocket. The musicians, whose tour revenues declined steeply during the pandemic, were likely eligible for the grants, which were awarded based solely on revenue, according to the SBA.
It would not be surprising if this was entirely legal, and it still seems to violate the spirit of what these programs were really targeted at.
DJ Marshmello, Lil Wayne, and Chris Brown did not immediately respond to NBC News' request for comment and did not provide comments to Business Insider. This wasn't the only pandemic-era relief program facing scrutiny, as many became a target for fraud. Experts estimating the Paycheck Protection Program meant to help small businesses keep up with payroll was robbed of at least $80 billion.
I think there's plenty of blame to go around. Certainly the program design left itself susceptible to this poor targeting and also to the fraud.
Some experts say celebrity spending like this, even if it didn't violate any laws, could encourage others to take advantage of these programs.
And when you see people getting this money who didn't really need it, you could see where people kind of use that to internalize and to justify maybe kind of pushing the bounds of applying for these things themselves. So I think there's real cost to high-profile people abusing these programs.
Okay, with that, Valerie Castro joins us now. So, Valerie, the expert in your piece kind of points out nothing illegal was apparently done here, but will those artists have to pay that money back? And why, if you could walk our viewers through, are we finding this out right now?
So keep in mind, these programs were rushed out at a time when people were in desperate need of help. It was the pandemic. Things were changing day by day. Unfortunately, it seems as though some people found those loopholes. It doesn't mean that they did anything illegal, but it may not have been in the spirit of what those programs were designed for. So they probably won't have to pay any of that money back. We're still hearing about it because the government is still getting tips about cases where fraudulent activity was suspected.
Maynard, charged and convicted of illegally getting a federal pandemic loan, is sentenced to prison. Good evening. I'm Pat Callahan.
And I'm Amanda Hill. Nathan Reardon pleaded guilty earlier this year. News Center Maine's Carly Dion is at the federal courthouse in Bangor with more on today's sentencing. Carly?
Pat and Amanda, 44-year-old Nathan Reardon pleaded guilty to federal bank fraud charges, and today a judge sentenced him to 20 months in prison and to pay up to $60,000 in restitution. This video showing his family leaving the courthouse today. They each gave testimonies pleading with the judge to not sentence him to any more time in prison. Reardon getting emotional as they each spoke about his character. Those fraud charges stem from Paycheck Protection Program applications. Court documents reveal Reardon received a Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, loan for nearly $60,000 using false employee wage information and false supporting payroll documents. The prosecution today saying Reardon used those funds to pay for expenses he knew were not covered by the program, like a number of Amazon purchases, a truck, a procedure for his dog, and cowboy boots. The father of 5 was facing up to 30 years in prison and up to $1 million in fines for the charge.
We were disappointed the judge didn't see it fit to let Nathan out today. We were hoping that he'd be able to go home after serving over 6.5 months already in the jail. But we were satisfied that the judge considered everything, and we'll consider what the next step should be. He's being optimistic and knows that he will be back home eventually.
Reardon will also be on supervised release for 3 years, and he promised the judge that he can and will do better moving forward.
An Instagram influencer who flaunted an extravagant lifestyle may end up spending 20 years behind bars. She's accused of using hundreds of thousands of dollars in COVID relief money to buy a new Bentley, a luxury apartment, even plastic surgery. News Nation's Kelly Beeson is here. Kelly, this is just the latest example of COVID relief fraud.
Yeah, it appears to be, Nicole, and cracking down on these types of cases is something that was front and center at last night's State of the Union address. Now the government is playing catch up to determine who abused taxpayer funds during the pandemic.
These are allegedly photos of Daniela Rendon in luxury cars, what appears to be a private jet, and lounging oceanside. But the Instagram account has apparently been wiped from the internet after the 31-year-old luxury real estate influencer was reportedly arrested for receiving nearly $400,000 through the Small Business Administration and Paycheck Protection Program. Instead of using the cash to keep employees paid during the pandemic, Rendon allegedly created fake payrolls for friends and family, pocketing the gains. This type of activity, an issue front and center at last night's State of the Union address.
As we emerge from this crisis stronger, we're also got to double down on prosecuting criminals who stole relief money meant to keep workers and small businesses afloat.
The Government Accountability Office puts the amount the federal government paid out in unemployment insurance benefits around $878 billion between April of 2020 and September of 2022. The Department of Labor's internal watchdog is estimating that a minimum of $191 billion in pandemic unemployment benefits may have been misspent. Inspector General Larry Turner said in testimony submitted today that at least $191 billion in pandemic UI payments could have been improper payments, with a significant portion attributable to fraud. Rendon reportedly spent gains from the pandemic on a luxury car, apartment, and designer shoes. She now faces 7 counts of wire fraud, among other charges, and up to 20 years behind bars.
Now, the Government Accountability Office has estimated that fraud specifically in unemployment insurance programs during the pandemic may have exceeded $60 billion, Nicole.
Yes, so much money. All right.
Criminal gangs have a reputation for street violence.
But one Detroit gang tried moving its crimes from the street to the internet until one gang member's flashy bling, among other things, got him busted. The man in this photo is cashing out stolen COVID relief money at an ATM machine. That's according to federal agents. See his lucky 4-leaf clover pendant? Investigators believe the bling 31-year-old Detroit gang member Brandon Bowditch was wearing was paid for with stolen COVID relief money.
Gangs in Detroit are going to go where the money is.
From an East Detroit neighborhood, investigators say a street gang called Don't Worry About It used the internet to steal nearly $500,000 in pandemic relief money from all over the country. That's taxpayers' money, your money. Here's how federal investigators say the scam went down. Using the stolen identities of hundreds of real Americans, the gang went online. They applied for pandemic unemployment insurance in at least 8 states, including Michigan, Arizona, California, Hawaii, even the U.S. territory Guam. Benefit money in the form of debit cards was then mailed to the gang members' Detroit homes. Court documents state the cards were then cashed out at local ATMs. Andy Arena heads the Detroit Crime Commission. As a former FBI agent, Arena said the case doesn't surprise him at all.
But they get caught, right? They're not as smart as the system.
According to these court documents, the gang used the same Detroit phone numbers and addresses for unemployment benefit money in several states, and feds say that led to the bust of Bowditch. Brandon Bowditch is currently out on bond facing mail fraud and wire fraud.